Okay. Hi, everyone. I hope you are well. I hope you, your teams and families are all safe and well and adapting to everything that's going on. For those that you that don't know me, my name is Tom Jepson. I'm one of the directors at Footprint Digital. We're a digital marketing agency that helps businesses make more money online. Our objective is to essentially demystify digital and help organizations make the right choices and come up with the right strategies to achieve their vision, goals, and objectives. And today I am joined here by our head of marketing and innovation,
Hello.
Chris Green. Hi, Chris.
You
How
all
you
right?
doing?
I'm all right. How's it going?
Good, thanks. Good. And today we're going to be talking about the digital response to COVID-19. So these are challenging times with a great deal of change. We are all having to adapt and learn. So today we're sharing some of our knowledge in terms of what you can do from a digital perspective to kind of navigate through these times. The focus will be on digital, and our advice will be a mix of strategic and tactical. So I think obviously it's interesting times, but I think there's a lot of opportunity as well. And what we want to do is communicate some things that you can be doing to help at this point in time. Please get involved. If you have any questions, then please do leave them and through the YouTube channel. And if you were looking to subscribe to this, I'll give you some details in terms of at the end of this, how you can subscribe to other events that we are doing in this series. So let's crack on. We've got a lot to go through. Chris, what would you say is the place to start?
So the good point to start in this, when anything like this happens, is we're talking about sort of, well, the concept of going with the flow, taking a moment to observe and understanding what the new natural patterns are. And what we mean by this, as you've already said, Tom, these are extraordinary times. And the thing that we found with our clients, the worst thing that we can be doing at the moment is standing still. Sadly, phrases like business as usual will become alien to us over the coming weeks and months. So we all need to think differently and adapt to these rapidly changing conditions. But as tough as these times are, these won't last forever. And what gives me confidence enough to say that is China and Hong Kong, for example, are starting to emerge out of the other side. And giving us a glimpse of what life will be like in the coming weeks and months. Schools are about to go back, workplaces are gearing up to return as normal. So we need to be just kind of keeping that all in to perspective. But what we are asking our customers to do, or clients to do, in all the businesses that we work with by way of an activity, is to think about, well, ask yourself, well, what are these new natural patterns? From a customer's perspective, what are the natural patterns in your industry, your organization? Even these changes and things have happened, are unlike anything that we have seen before, and you'll all having to be cope with that. And how does this change the technology you use and the products that you need to offer? And this is a really good starting point. It doesn't have to be digitally centric, but I think digital is a great place to start looking in this area. There you go, Tom.
Absolutely. And the second area that we're looking at is in terms of crisis communications, really. Obviously, communication will be key throughout this. And I think we've got to think about, the way that we communicate and the brand message that we need to be giving to our clients. And, it needs to be genuine and it needs to help. But most importantly, it needs to connect with your audience on that human and emotional level. After all, this is something that we are all going through together. And I think, one of the key things to take from this is to do it, but without angles. There's going to be people out there, unfortunately, that kind of use it as an opportunity to kind of take an angle to really try and get what they want people to do, which is unethical and it's not right. So I think for now, it's for us to kind of think as organizations, who are our audience, where are they going, what are they going through at this stage, and how can we communicate and be there for them. Obviously, there's a level of communication that needs to go out in terms of changes and adaptations to the organization, the operations delivery. But I'd say, be selective with, who that goes out to. Don't, don't necessarily mail out everything, deliver the right information to the right people. I think, we're all hearing a lot of this news. It's a relentless, never-ending feed of news and information. So I think if we're going to communicate with our clients and our audience, it's to provide clarity and most important, helpful information. And maybe even what we're doing at this stage is developing a syllabus as such that maps out content that is connected to what their particular needs and wants are during this time. And what we've got to ask ourselves is, what questions are our customers asking, but don't know the answers, and asking them directly what are they worried about, to understand what they're going through and how we might be able to support them. And obviously at a time like this, things like our email lists and social media followings and things like that are key communication assets that we need to utilize. So now more than ever, we should be utilizing those, but also looking to build them up, and do that through, offering content that people actually genuinely care about. As we mentioned, good news stories might be a nice thing to publish in current climate, as well as new initiatives. So I think in terms of an activity, the key thing is to, audit your existing emailing lists and social followings and establish, what's the very least that you can do to communicate and support those audiences at a time like now.
Absolutely. I think supporting that audience and that change in mindset is kind of so critical, and finding out how to speak with them is really key. And I think actually this is a kind of a core point that most people are going to need to ask themselves or make themselves really conscious of is, who are your customer and where are they now? Because we've witnessed within a matter of days that your customer has changed. Their anxieties, their buying motives, their worries, every part of their life has been impacted. And what we really need to do as marketers or business people, and actually as even as human beings, is take the time to understand what's changed and how can we pivot to address that. And digital is in a perfect opportunity to do that, because we can change and react very quickly via that. Now, these changes that we're looking at, obviously they need to impact your audience personas with the immediate focus of now, but you also need to be thinking about, well, how is that persona likely to change in 6 months, in 12 months? Now, I don't think many people review personas or their audience that frequently, but this is such a fluid and changing scenario that we really do need to look into that. And some kind of key examples is some of those businesses that have been impacted the most at this time, anyone like bookings, so holidays, events, weddings, etc. These cancellations or delays or postponements to these services, they're going to rebook sometime, and sometime soon, potentially. So what is that? How's that customer's mindset going to have changed over that time? How do you communicate with that person to get them to come back? Or how do you make yourself really ready and accessible to be booked at in that time frame? Really kind of critical stuff. Now, the immediate advice to you, and what we are pretty certain of now, is that in the vast majority of cases, your customer's context has changed. And that means that, like us all, we're sat at dining room tables, home office desks, on beds or on sofas. So actually think about that as a thought exercise for a moment. If you didn't have the internet or a laptop in front of you, could your business be seen or experienced by that person? If the answer is no, if none of your content is online or accessible to that person, then you're really going to struggle at this moment in time. So we're going to come back to that and the content side and the important side, but the activity and the crucial part here is, well, reassess who your customers are now, and how they've changed over this period. Really take that time to work that out, because actually where you'll succeed is where you can address and meet those changes.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing, I think at a time like this, optimism is kind of key for business and just day-to-day life, really, in terms of getting through this, and we will get through this together. And I think it is to look at this as there are opportunities to this current situation, and it's a time not to stand still. I think, as businesses or marketeers, we've got a never-ending list of things that we should be doing, and other things that we've had on the list for years, perhaps. So perhaps in this time, it's to take comfort that this is an opportunity for us to kind of get on with some of that strategic work and some that groundwork that has kind of been pushed off, and make the most of that time. There's no question, obviously, it's unknown times, and there's often obvious discussions around recession and the change in the economy and things that we face in the future. And I think because of that, we need to look back into other periods similar to those, like the 2008 recession. And during there was talk, I think it was Harvard Business School was talking about, it's not the time to kind of cut advertising or marketing and things like that. In most instances, they were saying, look, you should increase, because during this period, this is when competitors are cutting back, and you can actually improve your longer term market share and return on investment. And I think that's what this is about. Right now, it's about, yes, there might be a little bit of hesitancy in terms of the consumer, in terms of purchasing, but once we get out of the back of this, that's when it will really pay off. I think back to who was it, Henry Ford's famous quote of, those who stop marketing to save money are like those that stop a clock to save time. I think now's a time that we can kind of invest into strategic efforts and marketing and communicating with our customers to build relationship that will help and pay dividends in the future as well as in the short term. So I think we need to be looking at what can we do now to invest in the future, and how can we use, there's tools out there that we use, Google Trends, people also asked, Answer the Public, that you can use to explore what people are searching for as well, and understanding online habits have changed. So I think it's looking into new emerging questions and how we can kind of be there and answer those whilst they're being asked.
Absolutely. I think that's a lot of these tools that we typically kind of thought of as kind of SEO ones are actually, or SEO and paid search ones, sorry, are some of the ones that can best arm us to understand, how are people changing, and ultimately, how we can adapt. Because ultimately what we're asking people to do is change their businesses to fit within what is a very short-term customer mindset. And this isn't going to be an easy thing for many, because the implications that they're far beyond digital. They're business, they're commercial related ones. They could have logistical implications, supply. They could change how you fundamentally need to operate. But what we have seen is, though, some brands and companies have been able to pivot and change, and we're already starting to see people changing contract lengths, relaxing returns policies to reduce the levels of perceived risk in a given transaction. And actually, that's a really kind of critical point. So many of the way that we position products and price things are fairly arbitrary. We decide that. And if we're able to change that at the moment to make ourselves more approachable, then, now is ultimately the time. If we bring this back to digital, if you're not able to fundamentally change your business at this time, well, consider how you might approach this sort of adapted mindset to your business. Bear in mind that our customers have changed, the mindset has changed. What do your calls to action say? What does the content say? What is your most recent blog post? Is your social media accounts still kind of posting stuff from a content calendar specified 3 weeks ago? It's very, very easy to look out of date and out of touch at the moment because you're not actively communicating with people. And that even comes down to how you communicate negative factors that, delayed shipping, low stock, low availability, all of these things. People crave clarity at the moment, and there's nothing worse than, coming up against barriers on the site just because we're not communicating things properly. So, be empathetic to the customer's change in priorities, and fundamentally, what can we do to address and change those expectations? But what we're suggesting is, where possible, the main activities to really think about, how can we create or alter our products to respond to this change? It's far easier for businesses who have predominantly online or content-based businesses, but we all need to adapt and shift to this mindset. So, don't look at necessarily the barriers instantly stopping this. Start with this as a thought process and then see what comes to it later.
Yeah, I think that's a key point. And I think there is opportunity for new products and services, as you said, from this. I've seen it with a number of businesses that have adapted it. And I think, sometimes there's concern over, well, we're not going to be able to deliver it at the same level as we have in the past because of restrictions, let's say. But at the moment, that is enough for a lot of customers. So it's about looking at, how do you adapt those products and service offerings to meet the current demands and current landscape. So there's some great opportunity there. And I think, the wider thing there is obviously there to help, be there to help with the customers, because it might feel like this is a long way off, the light at the end of the tunnel, but by communicating, offering support is key. Businesses and customers need and want help right now. So as an organization, we need to be there for them. It's a time for us to kind of work together. Family values are high, and we need to show compassion and support each other at a human level, and engage with our audience, especially existing clients. We're going to get through this together. We've been monitoring a few brands over the last few weeks, seeing their changes in terms of pivoting of what's happened to provide good and to help. And there's some good examples out there. Brewdog, for example, they've reduced their beer production in order to produce hand sanitizer, which is being given away for free. You've got Twinkle that have made all their resources free for teachers and parents to help educate the children at home, which I personally can say has been a really big, high value thing.
Yeah,
and I know for many of us
that
have children at home, that's been an amazing help. And then you've got people like Amazon that are giving away free audiobooks for kids and things. So I think, being there to help at a time like now is something that is going to, engage and really relate to your audience. And this is about, a brand building thing as well, and bringing us closer to our customers, because once we come out of this, we're going to be the ones to turn to as well. So I think that's the question that we need to be asking ourselves now, is how can we help, beyond just a product or services level, but a wider humanitarian and emotional level as well.
Absolutely. I think that's such a kind of a critical point. And we sort of we look at kind of examples like Brewdog, who, not everyone has a brewery or a distillery or somewhere that they can kind of pivot their entire operation to help with the crisis. That's not just a canny marketing activity. That's like a genuinely cool thing for a brand to do. So we kind of urge people to do that. But if we look at someone like Twinkle, they're effectively a content, company. And the way that they can react so quickly and so helpfully to us is because their content is online. And if there's anything we can learn from that and the impact that that can have on us, is if there was any time to bring your content online, this is it. Because the great thing we can take comfort in here is, we've never been better equipped to mitigate some of the impacts of this pandemic that we have today. The power of digital to host and deliver this content is ripe and there for the taking. And actually, if you'd ask people like me and Tom, this has always been the case. We've been saying this for years. However, we've never had a more compelling reason to show people that now. Online traffic is the new footfall. And unless your content is discoverable online, as I said earlier, no one will see that. So how do we bring this content online? There are so many methods. Learning management systems, LMSs, are great if you've got any kind of education, any kind of knowledge that you want to share. Even if you don't identify as being that kind of company, you can deliver structured courses online and give people qualifications in that fashion. Teleconferences and webinar software like that we're using today can be used to deliver talks and consulting and all sorts. But then if we go even further away, book manuscripts, magazines, PDFs, you can digitize these and turn them into ebooks to be published online quickly and easily, even through places like Amazon. And then that's without even touching on video services like YouTube, Facebook Live, all those kind of services. If you have a venue that's shut down at the moment, well, why not spend the time potentially creating live tours of that venue with a live streaming service that people can either tune in there and then or can watch later on. It's just ways of getting that content out. Now, I can't say content as much as I have done without me being an SEO and Tom kind of both being SEO apologists at heart. Is this content is great for SEO, but it's not just SEO, it's all kind of search. Making content findable for people online, via paid search, via social media, via email marketing, can really help fuel this content strategy. And this strategy at the moment needs to be built around the knowledge that you can provide and giving that value to your customers. So how do you start this? Well, there are some easy kind of tips. You can create a YouTube live account and you can live stream from there. You can kind of use Zoom or Hangouts to create kind of smaller, more intimate content conferencing calls. Software like OBS, which is Open Broadcaster software, is free to download for Mac and Windows, and it helps you record live streams or offline recordings, and you can add your own production values, again, for free. And then if we turn to kind of commerce, those shops that had to shut their doors, Amazon, eBay, Etsy, not on the high street, Facebook Marketplace, Gumtree, there have never been more alternatives for you to kind of push your products online. So I would definitely suggest you kind of really focus on those to start with. And if you are already in the position where you can do that, the next level is taking advantage of advanced audience targeting methods via platforms such as Google Ads, Facebook, Instagram, etc. Google and Facebook have a lot of data. They know who our audiences are, where they're moving, and how that's changing far quicker than we do. And if you can use this data and utilize that through the ads interfaces, it gives you a chance to really get ahead, or at least keep pace with the changing mindset that people have at the moment. But before that, if that sounds too daunting, the main activity at the moment is just take an inventory of your existing content in all of its forms. Which of it is most important to customers at present? And then what's the best format to recreate it in for digital to help them now?
Yeah, I think that's a really critical point as well, because often we always think, oh, we've got to create something new, that's more work to do, that's more expense. But I think looking back at what you already have is a good place to start, because you'll find things, posts, content, even offline content that you've produced that is going to be relevant and really relevant at this point in time. So utilizing that and repurposing it and getting it out there through different channels is a no-brainer, really. And I guess, that point pulls on to this whole idea as well of where we're talking about getting focus. We talk about the head chef syndrome, which is essentially the analogy that, you wouldn't expect a head chef to, wait the tables and, take the coats, pour the wine, do all the other activities are in there. There's so much that you can do in digital that you've got to be selective and make sure that you're focusing your attention on the key things that are relevant today. And that's the key point, really, is those might have changed. The things that you've done in the past, the different channels that you might have used and things like that, the content will have changed, as we discussed, with the current circumstances and current changes in the consumer's needs. So it's an opportunity to do further research, planning and preparation in terms of what is most appropriate now at the short term, mid and long term. So the way that we'd advise that you start doing that is going back to the data and let that kind of shine light on what people are interested in. So using things like Google Analytics and exploring and seeing where traffic's coming from, what content people are engaging with, they're going to be critical in showing you where you should invest your money and time at this point. So I think, starting looking at which channels you think that your audiences are, and then use the data to kind of inform, whether that's correct and where you should be focusing attention and content efforts. So basically measure it and test it, which is kind of our motto, really. And don't be afraid to try new things. Of course, at this stage, there's definitely opportunities to go out there and try new things where if you think your audience there, and just make sure that you're tracking the things and you can see its effectiveness and be able to adapt and change quickly. So yes.
Cool. Yeah, and I think actually that the whole kind of data point and that whole make sure you're making changes for the right reason comes on to one of our favorite concepts, and something that the title of our new book, when it comes out, hopefully in the not too distant future, Shooting the HiPPO. I will come on to that concept, but the key nub of what we're talking about here is conversion optimization. And fundamentally, if you're a business that is still getting good levels of traffic at the moment, or looking to invest greater in paid search, make the most out of the traffic that you're going to get. So, increase people's likelihood of buying stuff from your site. There's many ways that we kind of look at this. I think assessing each step in the user's journey on the website and investigating where the points of friction are, that's fundamentally it at the most basic level. And Google Analytics is the best way that we find to do that. Except that If you haven't got GA set up, or you're not, confident or familiar with it, then, well, actually, don't overlook the importance of running through the process yourself and taking note of these points of friction. Key ones often are really basic ones, like the site's really slow. Or maybe your call to actions are wrong. The word submit on a button, you definitely don't want to be asking people to submit at the moment. That's not going to look very cool. But if the website is slow, you can make use of free services like Cloudflare, which are speeding and making sites speed up and secure for free, which is effectively saving people hundreds of pounds. Now, if you want to go a bit further down this conversion rate optimization route, we go towards A/B testing or split testing, which is effectively where you kind of make an hypothesis over what kind of change do you think will work better, and you run the two tests side by side. Tools like Google Optimize can provide this for free. It's relatively simple and accessible, and it's a great in to the world of split testing. It's not for everyone, but this is a data-led process, which brings me back to shooting the HiPPO. So the HiPPO in our scenario, we're not advocating that you actually start shooting things, but the HiPPO is the highest paid person's opinion. And the problem with this kind of process, and anything design-centric really, is very often people's opinions tend to overrule kind of fact or intuition. And CRO in the process of data analysis is fueling us with the data, or the ammunition, as it were, to shoot the opinion, to basically say that the highest paid person's opinion is not as important as what is actually going on. So you're using data to back your decision-making process, which is, a liberating process when you get into it. Now, what we would say, though, is that isn't going to be for everybody, and the starting point in that journey is ultimately reviewing your analytics data, seeing where the points of friction are, or failing that, just improve your website's call to actions. Are they human? Are they natural? Are they effective? And most people aren't even asking those questions. So if you do nothing else, just start there.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, just kind of getting yourself to run through the process, the purchase process, let's say, yourself, and again, put yourself in the mind of the user and their current, feelings, needs, fears, anxieties, concerns, and all those aspects that, as we mentioned, will have changed. And just go through that process and look for ways in which you might be able to adapt content, or improve and simplify the process, or add value, or reassure during that process, and make those changes. Is if you can increase your conversion rate, it means you increase your return on investment, and the effectiveness of all the channels that you're working with, which is, that's a nice thing to have happen. So be sure to do that. So the final thing on our list really is goes back to connection. Really, it's staying connected. Distributed times are fine, and at this moment in time, they are necessary. However, disconnected teams are not something that we want. And we're all having to adapt to this remote working environment and change to the way that we do day-to-day business and collaborate as teams. So we need to kind of utilize the technology that we have. As Chris mentioned before, we've never been in a better situation to actually adapt like this. Technology is pretty amazing, but it's to ensure that stay connected with the team, stay direct and clean lines of communication, feedbacks. We're all learning through this process, so it's making sure that we refine and adapt to this. We've even reached out to partners as well, in terms of, there's another thing to build relationship with other partners that you have out there. So I'd encourage people to go and look who's within their networks, and engage with them. Not only can we kind of help each other through this, but there's also the opportunity to learn together collectively, almost as a hive. And the more we do that, the quicker that we will be able to adapt to these things. So this is so much so important to us that it's actually the next webinar that we are going to be running, that is going to be talking about how to work effectively as remote teams. And in this session, we're going to be talking about some of the things that we've learned over the last week or so, as well as some of the things and tips and considerations that we've got from our partners. So that is going to be running on Thursday the 26th at 11 a.m. So please sign up to that, and feel free to join us for that session. That is it for this particular session. I hope you've found it useful, and please do let us know what your thoughts are and feedback, whether that's through directly through email, social media, or through YouTube. Please let us know what your thoughts are and any questions, and also content that you'd like us to produce in the near future. We're going to be looking at doing these on a regular basis, so if there's any areas that you'd like us to focus on, then please do let us know. In addition, let us know your own stories and successes, because we'd love to hear about those and also share them in future webinars that we do. Okay, that is it for today's webinar. Thanks very much, Chris, for your contribution.
That's all right. Thank you, Tom. It was fun.
For attending, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Stay safe, stay connected, and we will speak with you soon.
Goodbye.